Hey everyone! Welcome to my channel B&B Glow. Brooke thrives as Taylor's delusional pursuit of Ridge fails. Taylor Hayes' desperate manipulation is revealed by B&B spoilers, but Eric strongly supports Brooke. Nick Marone enchants Brooke with true romance, while Taylor's pitiful attempts to trap Ridge fall flat. Nick sweeps Taylor off her feet as her desperate plans backfire. It's becoming more difficult to witness the desperation, which is real. Everyone, notably Eric Forrester, who just gave Taylor Hayes the much-needed reality check, can see that she has officially reached her lowest point in her pitiful pursuit of Ridge Forrester. Did she pay attention, though? Obviously not. Taylor's disgraceful effort to win Eric over. Let's discuss the events that transpired at the Forrester mansion. In fact, Taylor believed she could waltz in and convince Eric to back her irrational connection with Ridge. Is she acquainted with Eric? Since the beginning of time, the man has been a member of Team Brooke. It hurt to watch the scene. In order to justify her relationship with Ridge, Taylor was essentially pleading with Eric to support her. Eric, however, is able to see through her deceptive strategies. We all know that the only reason Ridge stays with Taylor is because he is too obstinate to acknowledge his own mistakes. Eric had no intention of pretending otherwise. The most pitiful thing is that Taylor is aware of this. Ridge's passion for Brooke Logan is known to her. Eric wants them together, and she knows it. She clings passionately to a man whose heart belongs to another woman, but she keeps up this humiliating act. In every scene, her insecurity is evident on her face. Ridge's imprints on Taylor's failed plans. What's even more embarrassing about Taylor's actions is that she doesn't seem to mind becoming Ridge's consolation prize. As one observer so eloquently stated, she doesn't even care that Ridge's footprints are on her forever. Consider it. Taylor would certainly rush Ridge to the wedding tomorrow if she could, because she is so determined to lock him down. Why? Because she knows in her heart that time is running out. She is aware that each day Ridge spends with her brings him one step closer to understanding that Brooke is the one he belongs with. The level of desperation has escalated. She is doing everything she can, including influencing Eric, trying to incite opposition to Brooke, and most likely organizing a hasty wedding before Ridge realizes his mistake. It's pure, unadulterated desperation, not love, and each episode makes it harder to bear. Brooke, meanwhile, finally receives the romance she deserves. For once, Brooke is enjoying herself while Taylor is occupied with embarrassing herself. Brooke has been blown away by Nick Marone, who has been demonstrating to her what it's like to be with someone who genuinely wants to be with her. There is no more pronounced contrast. Taylor is depicted on one side as frantically plotting and pleading for meager amounts of love from a man who doesn't care for her. Nick, on the other hand, is making it very evident that Brooke is his first option and not a consolation prize as he pursues her. To be honest, Nick has been acting charmingly. The time has come for Brooke to be valued for her true self. No peeking at another woman over his shoulder. Avoid being evasive. Just romance and real interest. The disparity is a stark contrast. Eric remains firm, supporting Brooke at all costs. Let's give Eric the credit he deserves. He had the option of remaining impartial, giving Taylor false optimism, or throwing her a bone. But no. Eric stated his position clearly, and it is strongly in favor of Team Brooke. Taylor must be hurt by this rejection. She believed she could influence the patriarch of Forrester to turn against Brooke and possibly win some support for her phony romance. Instead, she received the reality check that everyone else has been receiving for months. Ridge belongs with Brooke, and no amount of last-ditch manipulation will alter that. Will Ridge finally leave due to Taylor's horrible conduct? How much more of Taylor's insecurity can Ridge handle at this point, you have to ask. Every desperate attempt to confine him, every cunning plan, and every pitiful cry for approval just serves to drive him more away. When he stares at her, it's evident in his eyes. That's duty combined with remorse, not love. In the meantime, Brooke and Nick are living their best lives together and aren't pleading with anyone for anything. Taylor is reduced to groveling for scraps while she is pampered like the queen she is. Ridge must be being eaten away by the contrast. When will he come to the realization that he is not with the right woman? Brooke should just let Ridge live with that useless piece of trash and suffer for the rest of his life, according to some viewers. And truthfully, perhaps that's precisely what he deserves after all of his evasive actions. Allow him to remain with someone who must con him and use deceit to keep him around. While Brooke finds happiness with someone who truly values her, let him realize what is missing. The absence of trashy Taylor would improve the show. I'll just state what many fans already believe. The show would be far more enjoyable without Taylor's persistent manipulation and desperation. It has gotten unpleasant to watch every scene with her. It's tiring to deal with the insecurity, the plots, the pitiful attempts to trap Ridge. In the most recent episodes, Taylor was more repulsive than ever. Even for her, seeing her attempt to control Eric while fully aware that he approves of Brooke and Ridge's relationship was a new low. How can anyone support someone who is so obviously in need? In actuality, Taylor is aware that she is living on borrowed time. She is aware that Ridge's love for Brooke is greater than his love for her. She is aware that everyone can spot her ploys. Nevertheless, she keeps going, becoming more pitiful every day. What will happen to this mess next? All eyes are on Ridge as we proceed. Will he awaken at last and realize what's in front of him? Will Taylor eventually lose it because of his desperate actions? Or will he keep allowing obligation and guilt to keep him in this fake relationship? There's little doubt that Nick's arrival will cause a stir. Ridge must be uneasy since he's already demonstrating to Brooke what true romance looks like. A little competition is the best way to make someone realize how much they stand to lose. You can't make someone love you, no matter how much Taylor tries to continue her pitiful plans. You cannot win someone over by manipulation. Furthermore, desperation and insecurity are not the foundations of a long-lasting partnership. This ridiculous relationship is coming to an end. Ridge could be Taylor's for the time being, but how long? Perhaps it is time to confront reality when even Eric Forrester refuses to endorse your relationship. Knowing Taylor, though, she will simply intensify the urgency. How much longer can fans put up with Taylor's pitiful performance? In what amount of time before Ridge realizes the truth? And once Brooke finds happiness with Nick, will she even want him back? Taylor cringes. Ridge just has to say it once. Few things are as satisfying, or as embarrassing, in the dramatic realm of the bold and the beautiful as seeing Ridge Forrester make a scathing comment with his trademark assurance, leaving Taylor Hayes agitated and frantically trying to come up with an answer. When it comes to issues of the heart, Ridge, the quintessential powerful, brooding father, has never held back. He has a renowned ability to finish a conversation with a single, well-chosen line, and no one is more hurt by his dismissals than Taylor. Taylor, a bright psychiatrist who should theoretically have the upper hand in emotional conflicts, has repeatedly shown that Ridge only needs to say something once for it to have a terrible effect, reducing him to either stammering, cringing, or spiraling into self-doubt. Their relationship is a textbook example of power imbalance, with Taylor, in spite of her strength and knowledge, constantly falling into the trap of wishing for a different ending while Ridge uses his words as a weapon. One of the most obvious instances of this pattern is Ridge's famous statement, "Brooke is my destiny." Regardless of how many times Taylor tells herself that she and Ridge are destined to be together and have a strong, unbreakable bond, Ridge only needs to say those 4 words to completely upend her world. Ridge's unshakable confidence in Brooke transcends all arguments, pleas, and tears, regardless of whether they have recently reignited their romance, experienced sensitive moments, or Taylor has opened up about their epic love story. Despite decades of the same cycle, Taylor's response is always the same, a mixture of amazement, hurt, and embarrassment. It's as though she somehow missed it coming. The fact that Taylor, a woman whose profession has been based on her grasp of human behavior, nonetheless finds it difficult to accept that Ridge's allegiance to Brooke cannot be compromised adds to the cringe factor. Taylor's inability to accept reality is what makes these times so painful to witness. When Ridge says anything, he means it. He has never been indecisive about his emotions. However, Taylor keeps fooling herself that he will alter his mind if she waits long enough, argues with him fervently enough, or reminds him of their past enough. Ridge, however, doesn't have to say it again. He has an unwavering resolve and a clear stance. It's always been Brooke, he informs Taylor, leaving no opportunity for interpretation. However, Taylor's embarrassing responses, her wide-eyed incredulity, her quivering lip, and her frantic attempts to retract, indicate that she is still hopeful and still believes that this time, perhaps, just possibly, he would retract it. However, he never does. Ridge's character is brutally beautiful because he doesn't mince words. He doesn't mince words. He expresses what he means, and Taylor's refusal to accept it simply serves to highlight her growing folly. Taylor is shocked by Ridge's directness even outside of the Brooke debate. His comments are spot on, whether he's telling her to stop interfering in his life, Taylor, stay out of this, or sternly reminding her of her role, you and I are in the past. Not even Ridge's delivery makes me wince, but Taylor's surprised quiet afterward, the way she physically recoils as if hit, and the way her countenance quickly cycles between denial, shame, and betrayal. It hurts to see someone as successful as Taylor reduced to such unadulterated vulnerability, particularly when Ridge dismisses the discussion without giving it any further attention. He doesn't question himself or concentrate on her response. He stated what he said, and Taylor is responsible for handling her own emotional problems. Naturally, some might contend that Taylor's responses make sense because her relationship with Ridge is complex and love irrational. Her ongoing astonishment at Ridge's unshakable position, however, begins to seem less like tragic devotion and more like willful ignorance after so many years of the same pattern. Since nothing ever changes, Ridge could certainly film himself stating, "I'm choosing Brooke," and play it repeatedly whenever Taylor wants to revisit their relationship. As though hearing it for the first time, Taylor still flinches every time. Ultimately, Ridge's power in every relationship he's in is demonstrated by his ability to conclude a disagreement with a single sentence. He doesn't stutter, he doesn't raise his voice, and he most definitely doesn't go back. It's final when Ridge speaks. Furthermore, Taylor's frightened, heartbroken responses simply serve to highlight the fact that she has yet to learn the one thing that could save her heartache. When Ridge says anything, he means it for all time. Hope and Taylor's jealousy erupts. Concerns of Liam and Finn and the lurking threat of Luna. Liam, Spencer and Finn have a very serious conversation on Monday, June 16th. Since Luna Nozawa has returned to the beach house, they are both quite worried about Steffi Forrester's safety. Why don't they lock their door? I simply thought. They must have a security mechanism in place. I believe they had private guards in the past when they were concerned about Sheila Carter, but they now have more than just a simple blink camera system and a deadbolt on the front door. Even Luna's run-down little flat is locked. During their conversation, Taylor tells her mother that Liam ought to be concentrating on his health, but instead he is only thinking about her and defending her. When Taylor learns of all of this the next week, she becomes extremely concerned about Luna visiting her daughter Steffi. Next week, Steffi and Hayes Forrester Finnegan, Brian David Garlick, are being watched by Luna, who is hiding and lurking. Luna is seen via a telephoto lens, and it appears to be either an art camp or a summer camp. It might be someone else observing, but come on, Luna, this is insane. Hayes is being dropped off at this small camp by Steffi, Finn, and Liam. The strange thing is that the set is the old beach house that R.J. Forrester, Joshua Hoffman, rented for a spell and where Wyatt Spencer, Darren Brooks, once lived. Over the years, we have observed a variety of people residing there. That set is being recycled. Next 2 weeks, June 16th to 27th, Bold and the Beautiful, Hope and Taylor are crazy envies. Spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful. Will Brooke be won back from Ridge by Nick Marone's stunning return? On Monday, Jack Wagner will reprise his role as Nick Marone. When he arrives at Forrester Creations, he astounds Brooke Logan. Nick immediately starts working to win her back. Naturally, he will be overjoyed to learn that Ridge Forrester is dating Taylor. That's already half done. Ridge's jealousy and Taylor's suspicions, Brooke's lingering presence. Taylor discusses Ridge and Brooke this week with Eric Forrester on Tuesday, June 17th. I also question whether Eric will tell her the truth. If he will take responsibility for his actions with the showstopper, you know. Was Eric attempting to break them up? Will Taylor really ask him? I would like to hear them have that conversation, but Brad Bell typically doesn't offer us the conversations we want to have. We'll have to wait and see. But Ridge and Brooke are Eric's subject. At the very least, I believe Eric would state that Ridge and Brooke do always end up back together, which is true. On Tuesday, however, Nick is occupied courting Brooke, and at their tearful reunion, they share a sultry lip lock. And I wonder if Brooke will ever realize that Nick might be a better option for her than Ridge, and how long that will take. Regarding him, Taylor and Ridge are talking about how Brooke is essentially still involved in their relationship. And I wonder whether Taylor already suspects that Ridge is at least partially interested in Brooke. We can all see those distant expressions in his eyes and understand his thoughts. This episode, Ridge also tells Taylor that he has never liked and never will like his half-brother Nick. Ridge will therefore start acting out as soon as he learns that Nick is in town. Given that it's obvious that Ridge is jealous, I wonder if Taylor will notice. And if Taylor confronts Ridge about his obvious envy, I wonder how he will attempt to justify and explain it. I believe it will be immediately apparent to everyone that Ridge is irritable, that Nick has returned, and that he is kissing Brooke. Is Luna's unbridled envy a danger to Hayes and Steffi? Ridge is being irritated by Nick on Wednesday, June 18th. Nick is going to have this arrogant attitude now that he is so accomplished and extremely affluent. For him, it's something different. Ridge, who always thought he was superior to Nick the sailor, will not be pleased by that at all, you know. Luna walks up to Hayes outside that small house, his makeshift camp. And you'll see once again. It appears to be Wyatt's home. In that house, Wyatt is the first person that comes to mind. I am aware that there have been other residents. On Bold and the Beautiful, Luna is insane. She is envious that Hayes has Finn while she does not, and she is violent towards Hayes' mother, Steffi. And if you recall, Luna claimed that if Steffi was separated from her child, her perspective would change. Hayes receives an unexpected surprise from Luna on Wednesday as well. However, what sort of present does Hayes receive from his sister, who is completely insane? Spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful, Ridge or Nick, Brooke's dilemma? Tension is sparked by Hope's jealousy. Brooke informs Katie Logan on Thursday, June 19th, about Nick's return, their kiss, and his desire for her return. Naturally, Katie is aware that Brooke still has feelings for Ridge. Will she advise Brooke to continue pursuing Ridge or to appreciate the attractive Nick who is interested in her return? If you recall, Katie also had a relationship with Nick. Hope is opposed to Steffi's attempts to persuade Daphne Rose to return to Forrester Creations in Los Angeles. Although Hope, not Daphne, is the one wearing Carter Walton's ring, the very thought of it will make her extremely envious. I wouldn't, however, put a lot of money on them being able to claim that I do. Ridge versus Nick, Brooke's decision and possible prospects. Ridge and Nick are the subject of Brooke and Taylor's argument on Friday, June 20th. I also wonder if Ridge's outbursts over Nick's reappearance would please Brooke. According to Jack Wagner, this might be Nick's first of many comebacks. Additionally, he was discussing the possibility of a long-term relationship with Nick and Brooke. However, Brad Bell essentially stated that Ridge and Brooke are endgame in an interview with an Italian magazine. Perhaps they ought to refrain from conducting contradictory interviews. Spoilers for Hope Logan and Taylor Hayes in Bold and the Beautiful. Luna's strange behavior, the drama of the Italy trip, and Carter's reassurance. Carter will reassure Hope that there is no cause for jealousy from June 23rd to June 27th. There is no cause for concern. Carter might attempt to reassure Hope by telling her that it wouldn't matter if Daphne returned. I still don't believe Hope, but Carter claims that she is the lady he wants or says he wants and intends to marry. Additionally, you can't rely on Carter since, as you may recall, he left his previous wedding right away and left the bride at the altar after another woman arrived and said, "Hey, come with me." Nick and Brooke get hotter. He wants her with him and permanently away from Ridge. In Italy, they are preparing for a remote event that will air in a few weeks. Nick, Brooke, Ridge, and Eric will be traveling abroad. It appears that Taylor is not present. Her heart might be broken again soon, therefore she might need to phone that chakra lady. The following week, Ridge becomes even more irritated with Nick. Additionally, Taylor is somewhat worried about Ridge's response to Nick and Brooke's rekindled romance. Since Ridge's actions are not typical of an ex-husband who is over someone, Taylor would be right on the money if she was also experiencing envy. Finn, Steffi, Liam, and others are all frightened by Luna's cunning and bizarre actions. Sheila is also growing more concerned about Luna's potential. Sheila had already discussed the threats with her husband, Deacon Sharp, and requested an update on Luna's whereabouts as events continue. You know, Sheila ought to be concerned. She is finally starting to realize that Luna is utterly insane and poses a genuine risk to Steffi, her son, and her grandson.